What does it mean to be a hero? Do they really exist in real life? These are very interesting questions, and I'll share my opinion about them at the end of this video. But before that, let's take a look together at the episode, The Hero, from the amazing world of Gumball, so we can examine these questions with a bit more clarity. This episode illustrates very well the value of parents and how, despite everything they do for us, there are still moments when all they do goes unnoticed. It also shows how pride can harm important relationships and how ingratitude deeply wounds people's hearts. The kids are at school talking about their parents, and based on their own perspectives, they share what makes their dads valuable, trying to impress those around them. Some talk about having a lot of money, while others mention physical traits, like being really tall. However, when it's Gumball and Darwin's turn, they're at a loss for what to say because, in their view, their dad doesn't do anything cool or interesting that would impress the other kids. Despite his many flaws, Richard is indeed a great father. He has shown countless times that he loves his children endlessly and has always been there when they needed him. Even though he is intellectually limited, he has always done what he could in his own way. But since the values being measured and considered in the kids' conversation were superficial, even if Gumball and Darwin had spoken up, it wouldn't have meant anything to them because they wouldn't understand how much more significant it was to be kind and supportive rather than tall, strong, or wealthy. For example, when Gumball and Darwin can only think of negative things about their dad, they stop feeling cornered by the other kids and join them, laughing at Richard and making cruel, derogatory comments about him. They joke that his cooking is bad and that the only thing he's good at is embarrassing them in front of everyone. But Richard is actually there, and he hears everything they said. He even seems to have some hopeful expectations about what his children might say about him. But when he hears all those mean comments, he ends up deeply saddened and heartbroken. It really hurts him. And who wouldn't be hurt, right? To see the two people who are your whole world talking behind your back and showing no appreciation for everything you do for them. Their mom and sister are outraged by the ingratitude of the two and explain to them that Richard heard everything and has been locked up in the tool shed ever since. It's clear how much this affected Richard. Even then, Gumball keeps acting like a fool, pridefully saying he won't apologize, which makes their mom tell them that she won't do anything for them anymore until they learn to appreciate their parents. She does this to prove that they wouldn't last long without their parents' help. Gumball then accepts this so-called challenge, once again driven purely by pride. He had already lost that challenge before it even began. After facing many difficulties without their parents' help, they finally agreed to apologize to Richard. But those apologies wouldn't mean anything, as they weren't sorry for failing to see how important their father was. They were just sorry for losing the good things they used to have. It was by no means a sincere apology. In the end, they don't even get around to apologizing because when they peek through the window of the shed, they see Richard doing something silly, which makes Gumball leave immediately and give up on apologizing. In his view, that moment confirmed that everything he'd said about their dad only embarrassing them was true. But the point is that, even though he had his limits and flaws, Richard was just trying to do something nice for the children he loved. He was always trying his best to be a good father, even if in his clumsy way, and he never imagined he was embarrassing them in any way. But Gumball's pride prevents him from realizing this. Darwin stays behind and listens to Richard singing everything he was feeling about that situation and about his children. Without a doubt, this is my favorite song in the cartoon. It's emotional, simple, sincere, and incredible. It very accurately portrays a father's true love and the deep sadness of no longer feeling important to his children in the same way he sees them as important. It's incredibly painful. During the song, he recalls memories that meant everything to him, when he taught them to say their first words, take their first steps, lifted them when they fell, and was always there, protecting them through every moment. In those moments, Richard meant the world to them, a true hero. But he feels that isn't the case anymore. At some point, that feeling was lost. He no longer felt like a hero, just a dad. But being just a dad would be enough if he had their love, which was all he was asking for. It's hard to think of anything purer to say than that. Darwin, however, takes the song very literally and creates a situation that puts him and Gumball in danger. Richard comes to save them, though he has a button that controls the entire situation, which is at least slightly sensible amidst all this craziness. But of course, it doesn't take long for things to spiral out of control. The button gets stuck on the car's roof and becomes unusable, leaving them in real danger. Richard arrives frantically and ends up making one mistake after another, only worsening the situation as he tries to save them. Meanwhile, Gumball constantly mocks his father for failing, showing no concern turn for his feelings. Darwin, on the other hand, tries to encourage him when he gets something right. However, when it seems that Richard has lost his balance and fallen, Gumball immediately starts crying and says that, despite everything, he was proud of him, acting as though he truly valued him, which completely contradicted the way he had been behaving up until that moment. But as soon as he realizes Richard is alive, he goes back to not caring about his dad and stops saying those things right away. This directly and humorously represents how people often don't take the time to express what they feel for someone very important in their lives and only realize they should have done so when there's no time left. When the car finally collapses, Gumball finds himself in extreme danger and unable to get up. Even after being discouraged by him many times, Richard encourages him and gives him the strength to stand up and get out, acting like a true hero and saving his son. In the end, they make peace, and the two realize how important their dad has always been to them, amazing just as he is. Even though they're no longer little, he will always be their hero. So yes, heroes do exist in real life. In fact, there are millions of them. However, they're quite different from the heroes we're used to seeing in movies and comic books. These heroes don't usually appear in the media. They go unnoticed, even though they're everywhere. They're ordinary people doing ordinary things, wearing ordinary clothes. They are incredibly afraid, but they keep moving forward despite the fear. They cry, suffer, feel pain, make mistakes, and sometimes they're defeated. They're far from invincible and don't always know where to go or what to do to save the day. They're imperfect. These heroes can't read minds, but they have empathy. They don't have super speed, but they do the impossible in just 24 hours. Their healing isn't accelerated, and it's hard for me to understand how these heroes don't have super strength and yet manage to move mountains and carry the weight of the world on their shoulders every day. I think, in the end, they do have superpowers. The heroism in each of their small yet extraordinary actions makes the world a better place to live, a less cruel, less unjust, less frightening place. It makes the world a place where I want to live. So, I leave here my love and gratitude to all these invisible heroes.